Well, welcome to another video with Matt Bradbury Sports ahead of the coaching symposium in July. Delighted to say that for today's video, we're joined by the Guildford Flames strength and conditioning coach, Rupert Quiney. Rupert, how are you for starters?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
we're all good, thank you. At the time of recording, there's still a couple of games left for the Flames. We're all done on our side of things, but one more big weekend for Guildford.
Yeah, absolutely. We're lucky enough to have probably our best weekend of the year last weekend with our first round of playoffs against Manchester. So, um, we'll be heading to the finals weekend in Nottingham. We've got a big week this week to try and get ready for it. So.
Yeah, and you've got quite a background in hockey, haven't you? Really, just tell us a bit about how you've got to where you are today.
So I guess, I grew up playing junior hockey in Streatham, which wasn't the most prestigious junior club back in the day. I played most of my time in B League hockey and whatnot. But then had a few good years sort of towards my later junior career, going towards seniors, where I was able to make the jump and go and play in Canada. Um, in at like junior A under 21 level um, for 3 seasons, and then when I came back, uh, played 2 years for Cardiff Devils, um, and then one dropped down to the EPL, where I played for the Telford Tigers when they were like run by Red Hockey, and then signed for Guildford the following season, and that was and I've sort of been at Guildford ever since. But that was the start of which we'll probably talk about a little bit later is sort of my injury struggles, which is sort of what led me down the strength and conditioning route. Um, and it was when I signed for Guildford, which my injury setbacks really came in, and but that was it ended up where I set up my base and have since gone down the strength and conditioning route and now wound up as their strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, strength and conditioning, as you'll know, as a coach as well, is so important because you end up losing a key player for time if they've not got the right conditioning, and it can really affect just the whole team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously ice hockey is such a dynamic sport. You need strength, you need speed, you need agility, you need the brains. You've got to have all that kind of and sync it all together. And I think that's where the strength and conditioning comes in. Start it at the right age, the right time, and Rupert has that expertise to bring to the symposium. And it doesn't get any better than somebody that works as the strength and conditioning lead for an elite league team, alongside also the work that he does at the grassroots level with the EIH and the young up and coming players across our country as well.
Yeah, it's such a thing. I mean, Rupert, so you've got your MSc from Chichester, your BSc from Farnborough, and you found a train hockey smart as well. Tell us a bit about that.
So I guess when I went a slightly different route into strength and conditioning. Obviously, coming from being a player, I didn't start my university education until I was 26, which worked in my favor because I was in a position where I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was highly motivated. So did my bachelor's degree, finished that in 2019, went on to do my master's, which was a great experience. Um, when you really start studying this stuff at a higher level, um, and you can draw parallels between what I was doing in my pro career, what the culture was when I was playing in the elite league or in the EPL, compared to okay, what is the proper practices within strength conditioning or sports exercise science in high performance environments. You start to see very quickly where things in ice hockey are somewhat lacking, whether that just be commitment to training, the culture towards training, the awareness of how strong players should be, or what type of conditioning protocols we should be implementing. You know, one of the big wake up calls for me was, you know, when I guess I was probably year one or year two in my bachelor's degree, going through all of my shoulder rehab after the main injury that I sustained when playing for the Flames, and reading sports science journals around, you know, what the relative strength standards that for contact sports, say American football, ice hockey, and things like that. And I was looking at numbers like, you know, you should be able to squat 1.8 or 2 times your body weight. You should be able to bench press 1.4 to 1.6 times your body weight. You should be able to do, you know, deadlift 2 times your body weight. What all this stuff. And, you know, I was kind of thinking back to my experiences, like, well, I couldn't do any of that when I was playing, you know, and why was that? You know, if you go back further to when I started playing senior hockey, like I've always been someone that, you know, I thought I was strong, I thought I was fit. I first started training in the gym when I was 16, so that's when I could first get the gym membership. Literally my 16th birthday, I was or like the next week I was signing up to the gym. And that was my first exposure to strength and conditioning, and I was having to figure out on my own in like a leisure centre gym. So my big motivation behind starting Train Hockey Smart is, and through what I've learned through my master's degree, and a big part of what I studied for my master's degree was youth strength conditioning. What are the current practices with, you know, the elite youth that we have, and you know, strength and conditioning cannot start at 60. It just, you know, it's by that point, especially in ice hockey, if you look at the junior players, they start playing contact hockey at 12 to 13 years old, because generally at under 14s, they're then checking. So you can check at that age, but in most cases, you can't access a gym till you're 16. Completely backwards logic. Like that, with that sort of culture, we cannot help players physically prepare to go and play the sport and do it safely. And then also at 16 years old, the good players, that's when they make the jump to play senior hockey. So, you know, we're potentially expecting these players to, on the ice, play and battle against people like me. And for those of you that don't know me, and you won't be able to see this with the video, but I'm like 6'4" and 110 kilos, and 33 years old now, been training for 15 odd years. You know, how can we expect our 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old players to be able to go and be ready for that step in competition without having years of practicing strength conditioning behind them? And that was sort of my big motivator to start and Train Hockey Smart. We need to allow kids to start practicing squatting, deadlifting, you know, prescribing youth strength conditioning, which is obviously needs to be, you know, appropriately focused for their age group and their maturation status, but they need to be exposed to that culture before they're 10 years old, just so they can really get proper practice at all the movement. They can start their training career early enough to give them time so that they're physically prepared for their ice hockey career. And that's something which in North America, the culture really supports that. And we're slowly starting to catch up here in the UK. Well, we're starting to catch up among other sports. For example, pro rugby is a pretty good example. The culture around strength conditioning in rugby in this country is quite strong. But with ice hockey, we're quite a long way behind, unfortunately. That's my whole motivation, is to try and start training hockey smart.
Yeah, I suppose, Matt, that's one of the kind of really key bits around the talk at the symposium, isn't it? Because obviously not all the junior clubs have got strength and conditioning coaches for obvious reasons, and you're trying to kind of get into the mindset of these juniors that they've got to to train in the right way, and it's not just what they do on the ice. When you've got a group of players who, they are teenagers, they have, for want of a better phrase, a bit of an ego. They all think they're going to be the next Liam Kirk, and they just want to go on the ice, skate as fast as they can, shoot a puck as hard as they can, and that doesn't necessarily set them up in the right way.
No, I mean, you just hear what Rupert's had to say. He's there to give tips, support, advice, guidance at the best level that we've got in this country, and that again is one of the main reasons why we're inviting Rupert along to the symposium in July. We're going to provide him with the best facility we've got here in Nottingham at the University of Nottingham at the David Ross Sports High Performance Zone. Not that he's going to be putting those coaches through a major workout. It's more the education that
I'd like to.
I think you should. I think there should be like a leaderboard of which coach can like squat the most. And
yeah, that's a good idea. It's a good idea.
We're going to provide look to provide a couple of athletes or some young people from Nottingham in the local area to maybe come along and support the session, and then really just give people a focus, a bit of a taster of what Rupert can do to help them, but also the ways that they probably need to look if to help their young person's hockey career. And I think that's the thing. It's that the main thing about Symposium is that people can take a bit of this and a bit of that from each of the workshops, and the guest speakers get to know what they're all about, how they operate, how a coach could look to operate, use that network and pool of coaches that becomes it's one thing we don't do enough of. We don't talk enough as coaches around in certain areas and certain parts of the country. And the more we can talk, the more we can really support each other. And I think that's the key for me.
I guess, Rupert, without obviously going into too much detail about what you're going to talk about and spoiling it all for those who are going to go, but it's probably could be quite a challenging thing because you've obviously got all the knowledge behind it and so much depth around the strength and conditioning, and you've got to impart that onto the coaches in such a way that they can then impart it onto the youngsters without completely blowing the youngsters' mind and making it so complicated they don't understand it.
Yeah, that is part of the challenge, I guess. However, it's from the level that we're talking at, I guess. If I was training an NHL player, for example, they would have such a high training age and such a high experience that you would have to be resorting to some quite complex or sophisticated approaches to be able to get those 1% adaptations to get them from already a super elite performer and to get them that little bit better, right? With most ice hockey athletes in this country, we're not necessarily talking about that because yes, the skill set on the ice, can be quite high with lots of players that we're seeing. I'm down at Ozone all the time, and some of the young players are doing there is on the ice is really, really impressive. However, if you take them away from the ice and you look at their ability to be an athlete, their ability to express strength or power and actually, measuring those outputs, we're not talking about things that like we don't need to integrate anything that's very complex. My main focus of the talk at the symposium is basically try to simplify things as much as possible. And so, say if we're talking about training for skating speed, one of the things which I hear coaches speak about a lot is, sort of the edge work, stances, how you move on the ice. And in my head, the big alarm bell which is ringing out is how much force can that person actually produce? If I were to stick them on a force play and get them to do nice mid-thigh pull, which is basically just a standard strength and conditioning test for measuring total force output, what sort of numbers would that athlete be able to hit? In most cases, for especially youth ice hockey players, sometimes across all levels, like even the pro guys too, Sometimes all they need to do is get stronger, in which case, and which would then improve their ability to produce force, which would then translate to each stride they have on the ice, they're able to, their force output is that little bit greater. That means they are propelled a little bit further in the shorter amount of time, which translates to skating speed, right?
Yeah.
And so my big focus around the talk is okay, think a little bit less about how the players are moving on the ice, and think about outputs. Think about, okay, like how much force can that player produce? If they're not producing enough, like that is one key variable which isn't really talked about enough, and will guarantee players to get faster. If if you imagine, you have, say, like a racing car. In most cases, you swap out the engine, you put in a bigger engine so it can produce more force. Car's going to go faster. Obviously, I'm not an F1 pit group guy or anything like that. I'm sure there's a lot more subtle nuances that go into it. But when we're training about people that are relatively undertrained, improving their ability to produce force will carry over to so many different areas. And as one of the limitations that we have at the moment is, how many players actually, can be in an environment where they can try and get strong. So we need to try and support that as best we can in terms of getting the youngsters in the gym, getting them learning properly how to do the right exercises, which are not gym bro exercises. They're proper, like, athletic strength training exercises. So that's, in a nutshell, that's sort of where I'm going to be taking my focus when it comes to the chat.
I'm sure that there are talks going on about injury prevention and sports nutrition and stuff as well, which will go into more details in this. But particularly, like, there's so much around recovery nowadays, in that, or recovering in the right way and all the rest of it, which is fine when you're a pro player and that's what you're doing. But then, like, when you're a youngster and you're going to school, and you might also be in the school football team or the school basketball team and what have you, and they're just doing so much sport that they are at a higher risk of getting injured and almost just wearing themselves out in a sense. So it's about getting them to recover in the right way when they're not active as well.
Yeah, quite right. And there's lots of, I guess you'd call them, sort of lifestyle habits that are essential to help facilitate recovery, help facilitate, like, especially if players are multi-sport athletes. They've got to go to school, they need to study, and I guess that's that sort of message has to come from the parents and the coaches too. What are the ideal lifestyle habits that allow players to continue to recover and then be able to go back and manage a higher training load? Because at the end of the day, getting players to train less for a complex sport like ice hockey is not necessarily ideal. When the more ice time they get, the likely they're going to be better at developing their on ice skills. Especially when you have someone like me coming along and saying, yeah, you got to be strength training 2-3 times a week as well. So managing those lifestyle habits is going to be key. And so think variables like how much sleep, what time athletes are going to bed, what time they're getting up. Also key variable is how much protein they're eating. Nutrition is a tricky topic with everything that's sort of banded around on the internet these days, but protein, for example, is the building material for for everything in the body, really, not just lean body mass. So if we're going to have healthy athletes which are going to be robust, it's getting enough protein is one of the key variables, and it's really easy for this day and age that those sort of messages to be sort of lost in the confusion that can be put out all on the internet and things.
Yeah. Matt, Symposium is now just under 2 months away. If people haven't already registered for the weekend, how do they do that?
Yeah, they're available at www.mattbradburysports.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, and all that kind of business as well. So if they just want to search up Matt Bradbury Sports, it'll take you straight through to the website. And there's every piece of information you need so far, right the way down to your accommodation. If you need accommodation, the food, the provisional schedules, everything there, as well as some of the guest speakers. So we hope to announce some more information as the season comes to a close. But and we'll have a couple more of these chats as well, because I think it's great to be able to showcase these fantastic speakers we've got coming to the symposium.
Yeah, Rupert, thank you so much for joining us today. That symposium then Saturday, the 13th, and Sunday, the 14th of July. All of the information at www.mattbradburysports.com.